Millionaire CEO's cold heart melts at 3 a.m. after secretary's shocking song. In the stillness of a midnight office, when the world outside was cloaked with darkness, something utterly extraordinary was about to unfold. As the clock struck 3, a piercing silence gripped the cavernous boardroom of Steel Enterprises. All that could be heard was the relentless ticking of the clock, pulling like a string, tightly wound and ready to snap. Inside, the imposing figure of David Steele, CEO, millionaire, and renowned for his icy demeanor, sat hunched over his desk, the glow from dual computer screens casting strange shadows on his gaunt face. But tonight, this titan of industry felt an unfamiliar emotion gnawing at him from within. The air was electric, thick with the scent of polished wood and stale coffee. Outside, the city pulsed with life, the faint rumble of traffic echoing like distant thunder. Yet, within the confines of his fortress of solitude, David was discontent, his heart heavy in his chest as he rifled through reports. His life had become an orchestrated symphony of profits and losses, devoid of warmth. Little did he know, a surprise was lurking in the shadows, on the verge of shattering his cold facade, and then she appeared, Lisa, his dedicated secretary. A woman of soft features and striking blue eyes, she had a spark few could ignore. Tonight, however, she was different. A tremor of something more than mere professionalism crackled in the air. With a guitar slung over her shoulder, she stepped into the dim light, illuminating the heaviness of the moment. "David," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet there was a steeliness in her tone, unraveling her sweet demeanor. "Can I play something for you?" He paused, uncertain, feeling an odd tug in his chest. "No," he replied, brow furrowed. But the way she looked at him, expectant and glowing with a strange vulnerability, twisted something deep inside him. What could possibly be so important that she needed to sing in the dead of night? As she struck the first chord, the sound sliced through the heaviness of the night like a bright flare in the darkness. The melody was haunting, a gentle yet turbulent wave crashing against the shores of his heart. Each note spiraled around him, weaving tales of lost dreams and unspoken yearnings. It was unlike anything he had ever heard. The lyrics spilled forth, pouring from her lips like a healing balm, full of hope and heartbreak. David's thoughts tangled in a web of confusion and longing, a storm brewed in the pit of his stomach. "Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." David felt his walls begin to crack as Lisa's voice soared, breaching his well-guarded heart. It was too raw, too real. Fear simmered beneath it all. Could this moment bring change? He was standing on the edge of an abyss, uncertainty wrapping around him like a suffocating cloud. Just as he thought he could breathe again, her final note hung in the air, quivering like a whispered secret, demanding attention. The silence that followed was deafening. He looked at her, and in that heartbeat, their lives hung in the balance. The clock ticked on, indifferent. How could he still hold on to his cold demeanor after this? The city kept buzzing outside, but inside, a question pulsed louder than any traffic jam outside: was he ready to feel again? The moment lingered, suspended between them like a fragile glass ornament, ready to shatter. David's heart thrummed wildly in his chest as he searched Lisa's eyes, which sparkled with a mix of hope and trepidation. The world outside faded away, and it was just the two of them, trapped in that electric silence. Wow, that was incredible. He finally managed to breathe, every word tasting foreign on his lips. But inwardly, he grappled with feelings long buried under layers of corporate ambition. The heart-stopping melody still echoed in his mind, stirring something that begged to be acknowledged. Lisa set the guitar down, the quiet thud breaking the spell. Her voice softened. "I didn't mean to know, really." He interrupted, the urgency in his tone surprising even him. "It was beautiful. Where did that come from? From here. She pointed to her heart, a shy smile blooming on her face. I thought maybe you needed a reminder. The openness in her expression splintered his facade a little more, exposing a vulnerability he thought he could keep buried. Could it be she saw the cracks in his armor? Of what? He pressed, keen to understand her deeper meaning, perhaps hoping against hope it might lead to a resolution of the storm within him. Of feeling, she answered, her voice steady as if she rehearsed those words during sleepless nights. You can't build a successful company without passion. What's the point if you're just chasing numbers? A pang of realization twisted in his gut. For years, he'd been hunched over spreadsheets, ignoring the very essence of why he started this journey. Did he even know anymore? He started, grappling for words. I thought I did. But right now, I feel more lost than anything. I get it, Lisa replied, moving closer, her demeanor shifting from secretary to confidant. Sometimes we wrap ourselves in our work to avoid feelings that are too overwhelming. But it's okay to open up. You're not just a CEO, you're a person. David felt a warmth creeping up from his chest towards his throat, but he swallowed it down. The more she spoke, the more he was drawn to her, like iron to a magnet. What was happening? A hint of courage bubbled within him as he glanced at the clock, the world outside still newly quiet amidst rush-hour chaos. What if we had a moment, Lisa? Just you and me. No titles. No companies. Just humanity. Her eyes widened, surprise flitting across her features, but then a glow returned. I'd like that. I really would. And just when hope flickered to life, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. The door slammed open, and there stood Mark, David's right-hand man, a jarring presence with wide eyes filled with panic. David. There's an emergency. The air thickened instantly. David's heart sank, the tender moment shattering like glass hitting the floor. What do you mean an emergency? Someone hacked into the system. They're threatening to release sensitive data unless we pay. Now. The color drained from David's face. His knees felt weak as reality gripped him once more. His world was coming down again, just as it was beginning to feel alive. Lisa's eyes darted between them, worry etching her delicate features. What are you going to do? David swallowed hard, adrenaline coursing through him. An answer was needed, but a creeping dread filled his thoughts. Get the security team on it. Now. His voice was firm, leader-like, but internally, chaos ruled. Just when he was ready to embrace the warmth of connection, the cold reality of his empire shattered the moment. As Mark rushed off, David turned back to Lisa, an unspoken question hanging in the air: would they ever escape this cycle? Lisa, he began, almost pleading, but she was already fading back into her role, her expression guarded. The door swung shut behind her, the soft click echoing like a gunshot. And with it went the calm David had just begun to find. In that turning moment, the question loomed like a shadow over him: when would he grasp the chance to feel again, or would this be another missed opportunity forever lost in the sterile world he had created? The clock ticked on, relentless as ever. David stood alone in the silence of the office, the adrenaline pounding behind his eyes. The weight of the emergency pressed like a foot on his throat, cutting off any rational thought. He breathed deeply, trying to reclaim some sense of composure, but all he could see was Lisa's hopeful expression, now transformed into a lingering shadow of what might be been. The buzz of his phone broke through the haze. It was a message from the IT department, indicating they were scrambling to contain the breach. But what did that really mean? Numbers multiplied in his mind, contrasting sharply against the real, human connection he had so desperately craved just moments ago. His throat tightened when he recalled Lisa's words: "You're not just a CEO, you're a person." Damn it. That thought gnawed at him. An image of his coldly lit office filled with charts and graphs flickered in the back of his mind. Each analytic representation was merely a marker of success, a cold reminder of the humanity he was so eager to escape. He paced the floor, his familiar sanctuary becoming a cage. The rhythmic tapping of his shoes echoed off the sterile walls, fueling a sense of urgency. Could he find a way to balance this chaos both in his company and in his heart? He turned on the security monitors, needing to glean any information that might spill from their static screens. Each moment felt like an eternity, the pulse of the clock marking off seconds like they were fragments of time lost forever. Then, Mark burst back into the room, breathing heavily, a sheen of sweat on his brow. "David, we've managed to isolate the breach, but they're asking for a hefty ransom, millions. We can't pay that, it'll cripple us." The reality hit David like a sledgehammer. "What are our options?" David asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tremor threatening to break through. "They want us to act fast. If we don't respond, they'll release the data. There's no backup to protect us," Mark replied, desperation etched into his features. The digital clock blinked ominously at him, each tick a reminder of the decision he had to make. David's heart raced, mirroring a battlefield where fear and responsibility clashed within. Pay the ransom or risk everything, they were the only choices laid bare, both littered with their own horrors. "I need to call a meeting," David declared, his voice crackling with resolve. "One that includes the board and legal." He swiped up his notes, but the thoughts kept slipping through his fingers like sand. As Mark hurried out, David's mind drifted back to Lisa. He thought about the way she had shone like a lighthouse in the storm of his chaotic life. Would they ever get back to that moment? In his rush for answers, he felt something deeper pulling at his chest, regret. His phone buzzed again. Another message, this one from Lisa. "We're all waiting to hear from you. Please don't shut us out." His fingers hovered over the screen, longing to reassure her but fearing he wouldn't be able to commit to words that matched the fragility of the situation. Was he ready to let her in? He glanced at the door where she had exited, the warm glow of her spirit dimming in the crevices of his memory. Then, a loud thud resonated from the far corner of the office, jerking him from his thoughts. He shot a glance towards the sound. Shadows moved. "Mark?" He called out, but no one answered. The hairs on the back of his neck bristled as he edged toward the source. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a figure stepped out of the darkness. "Surprise!" it hissed, the voice chilling his blood. David's heart raced as he recognized who it was, just as the realization swept through him like ice water. The clock was not only ticking toward a decision, it was counting down to something far worse. What had just walked into his life? And could it tear apart the fragile hopes he had just begun to rebuild? He faced the figure, resolve hardening in his chest. "Who are you?" he demanded, a mixture of fear and defiance coursing through him. The smile that took over the figure's face promised more chaos than he could prepare for, and David stood rooted, every choice weighing down on him like a storm cloud ready to burst. And just like that, he was drawn in, once more spiraling into a world he thought he could escape. What was the truth hiding in the shadow, and would it catch up with him before he could find his way back to feeling? The figure stepped closer, the dim office filling with an unsettling air. David fought against the instinct to retreat, his heart pounding like a drum echoing through an empty chamber. Each step the figure took seemed to draw shadows around them, absorbing the flickering light. "Didn't you miss me?" The voice was laced with venom, triggering a swarm of old memories. It was Mia, his former partner in business and life, the woman who had played every playbook but the one for a fair game. "Mia," he stammered, the name tasting bitter on his tongue. "What are you doing here?" She leaned against his desk, her dark outline a dramatic contrast against the sterile backdrop. "I heard about your little predicament. Can't say I was surprised to find you in this mess. Who knew running a company could be so chaotic?" David's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "How did you find out? What do you want?" Her laughter rang like shattered glass, sharp and unnerving. "I've got everything I need right here, David. You're in deep, and I'm here to help. Or at least to help myself." Confusion flooded his thoughts, mingling with fear. Was this a random play, or had she been waiting for the perfect moment? "You're the last person I want help from," he shot back, standing his ground, even as the threat of her presence loomed large. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. You might just need a little alliance if you want to keep your precious data from getting out," she cooed, stepping closer, her breath nearly grazing his face. "You and I both know the cost of what happens if you don't comply." David was torn. Should he reach out to Mark for backup, or would this turn into a game of cat and mouse? The stakes were high, and the pressure was relentless. "You think I trust you? You walked away when things got tough," he said, every word a challenge, yet laced with hesitation. "Things are different now, and so am I," she smirked. "I've come to realize we can achieve mutual goals. That ransom you're dreading? I might have a solution for you. But it won't come cheap." His gut twisted. "What are you proposing?" "Simple," she replied, tracing the edge of the desk with her finger. "You need funds, and I need information. I help you with the ransom. In return, you open up all your company's secrets to me." Why would I ever agree to that? David felt his chest tighten, the walls of his office closing in. "Because," Mia leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "the truth is, you don't have many choices left. Keep pushing me away, and your problems only multiply. Or you could embrace this unexpected partnership. Hell, maybe I can even help mend some of those broken connections." David narrowed his eyes, weighing her words. The memories flooded back, the broken trust, the deceit, and yet, there was a flicker of hope shimmering beneath the surface. A chance to prevent disaster, even if it came with a cost. Before he could respond, a loud banging echoed from the office door, jolting both of them. Without warning, the door burst open to reveal Mark, eyes wild with panic. "David! We need to get out of here. I just got word that they've breached the firewall." Panic gripped David. The tension thickened as he glanced between Mark and Mia. "Do you really think you can afford to waste any more time?" Mia shot back, crossing her arms, a smirk still adorning her lips. The decision pressed down on him like a weight, he could sense the unseen clocks ticking louder, each pulse demanding action. Fate was drawing him into a darker world, yet there was no time to second guess. "Fine," he blurted, feeling the chill in his veins. "Let us talk." Mia's smile widened, revealing just enough of her true character to ignite his inner warning bells. As they started discussing the repercussions, he felt the gravity of his choices thundering through him. He could step deeper into the shadows or find a way to turn back if there was still time, but would it really lead to salvation or just drag him down further? The way ahead was murky, and with every second, the danger loomed closer. What lies beneath the surface of their twisted alliance, and could David grapple with more than he had bargained for? Mark's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "David, we don't have time for this. We're under attack." David felt the adrenaline surge through his veins. The digital storm raging outside mirrored the chaos within his office. He glanced back at Mia. Her smirk faded as she exchanged a look with Mark, a brief flicker of recognition dancing between them. "Call off the company's defenses," Mia suggested, her tone sharp as a scalpel. "We can't risk them knowing we're expecting them." "What? Are you insane?" Mark shouted. "We adjust the firewalls, not dismantle them." "I'm telling you," she urged, her voice resonating with urgency, "our only chance is if they think they're winning. You need to trust me at least for now." David weighed his options as sweat beaded on his brow. Mia had a knack for manipulation, but this time it felt like she might actually be right. The underlying threat of losing everything, his company, his data, nudged him closer to radical decisions. He glanced at Mark, whose wide eyes showed a mix of desperation and disbelief. "Do it," David said, his voice low but firm. The chill in the room deepened, marked by a collective gasp that seemed to echo back against the walls. Mark's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious." "Just do it, Mark." David insisted. "We're cornered. It's the risk we have to take. We can't fight them if they have the upper hand. Mia stepped forward, urgency radiating from her. We'll secure the data as best we can, but we need to reopen those doors. Just long enough for me to do my part. Reluctantly, Mark nodded, hands trembling as he typed away at his keyboard. The room filled with the rapid clicking of keys. David felt every moment hang in the air, charged with unspoken fear and anticipation. As Mark prepared to adjust the firewall, Mia leaned in closer to David. You still don't trust me, do you? She whispered, a hint of vulnerability sneaking through her confident facade. No, he replied, sharply. But we don't have other options anymore. Her expression softened for a fraction of a second, and he caught himself contemplating the lengths she would go to win his trust back. But even that flicker vanished in an instant, replaced by her unyielding demeanor. This was Mia, after all. With a final keystroke, Mark triggered the modification. The screen flickered, and for a moment, silence blanketed the office. David's pulse raced. He could feel it, the tension, the palpable fear. It was as though the air had thickened, wrapping around them like a vice. Then came the ping. A notification echoed from the monitors, chilling David to the bone. Unauthorized access detected, the system warned. David's heart dropped. Did it work? He asked, panic threading through his voice. Mark's face paled. No. They're in. And they're coming for us. Just as the weight of those words settled in, the lights overhead flickered violently, casting alarming shadows on the walls. The alarm system blared with an ear-splitting shriek, drowning out their thoughts. Mia's eyes narrowed, calculating. I need to know where the breach is coming from. If I'm going to help, I need precise access to your internal systems. No. Mark shouted. You can't trust her. David's breath quickened. Every fiber of his being screamed caution. Mia could be the key to saving everything, but at what cost? The room was collapsing around him, walls closing in, and the clock was ticking furiously. David, Mia pressed, urgency clawing at her tone. You have to decide now. Heart pounding, David was caught between the shadows of trust and betrayal. Would this woman lead him to safety, or would he be handing her the very noose that would hang him? With the alarm continuing to blare, the chaos outside grew deafening. As the burden of his choice closed in, a single thought flashed: what if this made everything worse? And as the office door began to shake violently, David realized he was on the brink of a decision that could shatter his world forever. He had to act fast, or risk losing everything he fought for. What new dangers lay ahead, and could he truly manipulate the darkness without being consumed by it? A heavy silence smothered the room, the stark reality of Mia's request looming like a storm cloud. David's heart raced, hammering against his ribcage. He could feel Mark's anxiety radiating next to him, each rapid breath echoing their collective dread. The alarm blared on, a relentless reminder that time was slipping through their fingers. David. Mia's voice pierced through the chaos, shaking him from his anxious reverie. I can disable their access, but I need to get into the mainframe. Please. His mind raced. Trusting her meant gambling on everything he had built. But what choice did he really have left? Mark, if we don't act now, do it. Mark's outburst was fierce and desperate. But if she tries anything, I won't. Mia interrupted, her eyes fierce and unwavering. I promise. I'm not here to betray you. David's fingers twitched, a mixture of adrenaline and fear. Then let us get to it. With no other alternatives presenting themselves, he turned to Mark, who reluctantly stepped aside, allowing Mia access to the terminal. Mia moved with purpose, fingers flying over the keyboard, and the noise around their tech fortress seemed to fade. David watched her, weighing her every movement. The tension prickled at the back of his neck. It was like he was on the edge of a cliff, staring down into pitch-black uncertainty. As she typed, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into a momentary darkness before emergency lights kicked in, casting an eerie glow. Each flicker made David's stomach churn with discomfort. He could sense danger creeping closer. The hackers were relentless. Suddenly, the monitors displayed a series of code cascading down the screen, each line an ominous countdown. David's heart dropped again as realization set in. What's happening? He could barely keep up with the rapid-fire changes unfolding before him. System overload. I'm trying to breach their line. Mia shouted, urgency shaking her voice like a live wire. Sweat beads began rolling down her temples. But they have multiple layers of security. If I don't get access to their main protocol, we're done. Mark looked at David, a mixture of disbelief and alarm etched on his face. We're playing with fire. You have to shut this down. David felt torn again, the gravity of the decision weighing on him. If he put a stop to Mia's workaround, they might lose all hope of regaining control. But if he did nothing, what could she do with that access? The room seemed to shrink, walls pressing in like time was folding. Mia's hands stilled. Panic flashed in her eyes as she turned to David, her breaths sharp and quick. The breach, it's deeper than I thought. They're not just after data, they're after you. What? David felt the color drain from his face. Think. She hissed, you're the target. They're hunting you down. You've got to get out. The warning sent shockwaves through him. The door rattled again, louder this time, and David could almost hear the malicious laughter of unseen enemies outside. He had been too consumed with saving their company to see the bigger picture. He suddenly felt naked, exposed. Mark, we have to leave, David managed to say, adrenaline pouring through him like fire. Now. Not without the data. Mark insisted. There's no time. Mia's voice cut sharply, like glass. The door rattled violently, and David felt a rush of dread. We go now, we fight another way. We can't hold this position. And as they darted towards the back entrance, footsteps thundering in the hallway, David had a sickening feeling in his gut. Whatever was hunting him knew. The evil on the other side was relentless. They burst through the door just as it slammed open behind them, shadows spilling into the room. David glanced back, heart pounding. What horrors awaited them outside? The corridors twisted in the bleary emergency lights ahead, a maze of uncertainty and fear. But one question ricocheted in David's mind, who could he truly trust now? As they bolted into the chaos, every instinct screamed at him that this was just the beginning. They raced down the corridor, the sirens blaring like banshees, chaos enveloping them with every step. David's thoughts spun like a whirlpool, pulling him deeper into confusion. How had his life twisted into this nightmare? Left. Mark barked, pointing down an unlit hallway. They rounded the corner, stomachs tightening with each echoing footfall. David pushed himself faster, spurred by the urgency of Mia's warning. It was all too surreal. He had lived in a bubble of privilege and control, and now the walls were closing in. Where do we go? Mia gasped, her breath hitching. We can't just run aimlessly. David's mind scrambled for exits, strategies. Breathe, think. There's a security room near the loading bay. We can lock ourselves in, and a deafening crash interrupted him, the sound of glass shattering echoed from behind. They paused, hearts pounding, staring back as dust clouded the area they had just abandoned. Dark silhouettes moved through the haze, approaching with purpose. Move! Mark yelled, already sprinting. With every step, David felt the weight of dread pressing down harder. Fear surged through him, making him feel alive and sick all at once. They fled down narrow passages that twisted like a serpent, sharp turns that felt increasingly convoluted. Every corner hid more shadows, and with every step, the reality of their situation seeped in. Someone was hunting him. His thoughts darted to his family, his company, everything he had worked for. Did any of it truly matter now? Leaving it all behind, he thought, but couldn't afford to dwell. They skidded to a halt as they reached a heavy steel door, the security code box glinting under the flickering emergency bulbs. Get it open, now. Mark urged, desperation tinging his voice. Let me think. Mia retorted, panic creeping in. She fumbled with the keypad, fingers shaking. Time was a thief, snatching away their chances. Come on, come on. David muttered, paranoia bubbling over. He could hear footsteps closing in, louder now, eager and feral like wolves on a hunt. Got it. Mia exclaimed with a shaky breath, turning the handle and pushing the door open. They barreled inside, David glancing back just in time to see a figure dart into view. A flash of menace in their eyes sent a shot of ice down his spine. Slamming the door, they turned the lock, hearing it click with a finality that was both a relief and a gilded cage. The room was small and cluttered with monitors and security equipment, the faint hum of machinery the only sound. Is this safe? Mia asked, her eyes wide, reflecting fear and determination. For now, David replied, but confidence felt flimsy. We need to find out who is behind this. Mark wiped his brow, frustration boiling. You had to trust her, didn't you? Do you think your life is a game? Because mine isn't. David's gaze shifted to Mark, the betrayal biting. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't choose to be a target. Mia stepped between them, her face resolute. This isn't helping. We need to work together, stay focused. If they knew I was here, her words hung heavy in the air, unspoken fears clawing at their minds. Suddenly, alarms blared back to life, loud and shrill. David's heart raced again as he scanned the room. A flickering monitor near the corner caught his attention. Data streamed across the screen, encrypted messages, logs, access points. It's their main line. David whispered, his resolve hardening. If I can just decrypt this, are you insane? Mark shot back. You want to put yourself back in the crosshairs? No, I want to fight back. David fired back. I want to be hunted. Not anymore. He rushed to the terminal, fingers hovering, ready to dive in. The thrill of a challenge surged like electricity. If he could turn the tables, maybe they could come out alive. Mia's shaky voice broke through, somber yet firm. Can you trust me to cover you while you work? David hesitated, the weight of trust shifting in the air. We need to be quick, he replied, his heart racing. They'll be here any minute. As he focused on the screen, paranoia washed over him, every sound amplified. Yet, beneath the fear, a flicker of hope ignited. They could fight back. But then the door rattled violently, the shadows closing in once more. Brace yourselves, David whispered softly, the tension building to a breaking point. What lay beyond those doors? Was it just hunters, or did they carry a deeper threat that David never saw coming? Would this be the defining moment that answered the haunting question, who could he truly trust now? David's fingers danced over the keyboard, racing against time as the pounding on the door grew more insistent. Each thud was like the ticking of a clock, marking the seconds they had left. Stay alert. He warned, glancing at Mia and Mark, their faces pale with fear yet set with determination. The screen flickered, lines of code scrolling like a treacherous river. Come on, he muttered, urgency biting at his insides. He was so close. The encrypted files held answers that could pull them from the edge of disaster. He delved deeper, frantically inputting combinations, hoping against hope that he wouldn't trigger a lockdown or, worse, an alarm that would seal their fates. Mark paced, eyes darting to the door as his anxiety mounted. Do you think they know we're in here? He whispered, the tremor in his voice betraying his bravado. I don't know. Just keep an eye out. David snapped back, irritation flaring. They had no time for doubt, no time for fear to overcome them. Mia watched the door like a hawk, her grip tightening around a small metal object she had picked up from the desk, ready to defend them if the door gave way. I'll cover you, but hurry. She urged that he could see the faint glow of progress on the monitor, the files slowly unraveling their secrets. A line of highlighted text caught his breath. I'm in, he gasped, exhilaration flooding him. But as the information revealed itself, a bone-chilling realization sank in. This wasn't just about him. It was all interconnected corporate espionage, backdoor deals, the raison d'etre for this relentless hunt. "David, what do you see?" Mia leaned closer, curiosity piqued but masked by concern. "It's bigger than we thought, they're not just after me. They want to eliminate anyone who knows too much. This includes all of us." Panic simmered under his calm exterior. "They have lists, operations planned. There's a whole network out there." Suddenly, the rattling stopped. The stillness in the room was deafening, so palpable that he could almost hear his heart pounding in his ears. Together, they held their breath, hope and dread colliding. They listened, straining to hear what was happening outside. Then crash. The door splintered violently, the metal screaming in protest. A shadow burst through the narrow gap, and the world exploded into chaos. The three of them instinctively dove to the side as the door shattered. A flood of figures cloaked in darkness filled the room, their intentions as ominous as their silhouettes. David's breath hitched, his instincts screamed at him to run, to fight back, to protect Mia and Mark. But the overwhelming numbers froze him in place. "Get them!" A voice shouted, distorted but filled with malicious intent. In that moment, adrenaline surged through him. "This way!" he yelled, grabbing Mia's wrist and pulling her toward the corner of the room where boxes stacked high provided temporary cover. Mark followed, adrenaline pushing his heart into overdrive. "David!" Mia yelled, fear slipping through the cracks of her otherwise resolute demeanor. Behind them, a crushing force broke into the room, shoving aside the remnants of what protected them. "I'm here!" David shouted back, his jaw set with determination. As he maneuvered around debris, his mind whirled with every horrifying possibility. They were trapped with nowhere to run. Just then, a flash of light cut through the dark, a set of piercing eyes looking right at him. In that moment, David felt a flood of certainty. This was it. They either fought to survive or surrendered to the shadows consuming them. With adrenaline coursing, David turned toward the terminal, desperate for a lifeline. "If we could just isolate their comms, maybe we can stall them." "Are you crazy?" Mark screamed, darting back toward them. The urgency dripped like sweat from every pore. "I have to try." David felt every muscle tense as he leaped back to the terminal and started typing, heart pounding. This was their last chance. Then it hit him, a brutal clarity. "Mia, trust me. I need you to stall them." "What do you want me to do?" she cried, her voice strained. "Buy me 5 minutes." He urged, his focus unwavering. "You can do it. We'll make this work." Unsure, Mia nodded, resolve hardening her features. She grabbed a chair and hurled it toward the figures at the door, creating a momentary distraction. The flash of determination in her eyes fueled him. He had to succeed. David turned back to the screen just as chaos erupted, unsure if he could find the light before they were swallowed whole. In that frenzied moment, he couldn't shake the nagging question, would Mia's courage be enough? Or was it already too late for them all? The chaos roared around them as shadows swarmed, but David's fingers flew over the keyboard, keyed into a rhythm of survival. "Come on," he hissed to himself, pushing aside his gnawing fear. The world outside was relentless, crashing inward, but there was no turning back now. Mia's voice pierced through the clamor. "David! They're coming!" David's eyes darted between the monitor and the approaching figures. Each word settled like lead in his stomach. He could sense their malice, and he was racing against more than time, he was racing against death itself. "Just 5 minutes." He yelled back, his heart drumming against his ribcage, each beat a reminder of their imminent doom. He hit the enter key, praying the command would work. Lines of code zipped by on the screen. Mia and Mark were ready. They could hear the guttural growls of their pursuers behind them, and every second was slipping away. Mia gritted her teeth, adrenaline firing through her veins. She hurled another chair, screaming fiercely, "Stay back. We won't go down without a fight. An unseen hand grasped at the darkness, wrenching aside pieces of furniture like they were mere toys, and David's panic flared again. He had to finish this. The only avenue of escape, the only glimmer of hope in the storm of chaos, lay within those corrupted lines of text. Focus! Mark shouted, jostling David's shoulder to snap him out of the spiraling anxiety. Do it! We can't let them take us. The word steadied him. David's fingers resumed their frantic dance. He could not afford to let fear grip him too hard. Digging into the depths of his memory, he navigated the codes as if they were a familiar map. Simon as the monitor flickered ominously, a wild thought flashed through his mind. Mia, if we can create a fake signal, we might divert them. She whipped her head around, eyes wide with determination. What do I do? Just keep them busy, shout about something else. He pressed urgently. Mia took a deep breath, pulling every ounce of strength she had left. She faced the advancing shadows and shouted, You think you can take us? You don't know who you're messing with. We'll expose you all. The energy shifted, and David sensed the confusion among their attackers. Their momentary hesitation was all he needed. He poured every bit of concentration into the terminal, bringing the software to life. Come on, just a little longer. But the thud of heavy boots echoed closer, and a figure broke away from the pack, his expression cold and relentless. David's blood ran cold as he saw the glint of a weapon. No! David, hurry! Mia screamed, fear bubbling over in her voice. He's coming. He glanced briefly at the screen. The signal was almost there, almost in place. But with every second ticking down, something shifted in the air. A low whisper brushed through, a shadow from the figure hovering too close for comfort. You really think you can outsmart us? David's chest tightened, suffocating under the weight of despair. The shadows were closer now, a mass of chaos and darkness, ready to crush them. In a final furious burst of desperation, David punched in the last command, held his breath, and then it happened. The lights flickered to life on the screen, words cascading down, confirming everything he hoped for. It worked! He roared, disbelief flooding his voice, but before he could even register their success, the figure lunged. David! Mia's terrified scream shattered through the cacophony, and time itself seemed to freeze as the reality of their situation crashed down. In that instant, David realized hope was a fragile thing, and survival was a cruel game. The rush of adrenaline transformed into a sharper fear as he turned, the figure bearing down on him with a menace that stole his breath. Would this be the end, or was this just the beginning of something darker? With a burst of sheer instinct, David lunged to the side, narrowly dodging the shadowy figure's attack. His heart raced as adrenaline surged through him, drowning out panic with raw determination. Mia! Mark! He yelled, feeling the urgency gnawing at him. Get to the backup exit. Mark shouted, his hands balled into fists. The chaos whirled around them, but David's focus remained locked on the advancing threat. His instincts kicked into high gear. He had to protect them. No more time for hesitation. Just as the figure moved in again, David felt an icy promise of danger. I won't let you take them. He growled, propelling himself toward the assailant, trying to place himself between the looming figure and his friends. This time, he knocked the attacker back with a savage shove, buying them a precious second. Mia, keep doing what you're doing. Just hold on. David shouted, feeling everything around him blurring into urgency. He glanced back to check on Mark, who was ready to follow orders, determination lining his jaw. Mia was still at the terminal, fingers flying over keys as code scrolled down the screen. I'm almost there. But her voice cut off abruptly as the attacker surged forward again, urgency ringing in his ears. Get down! David yelled instinctively, careening toward her. With one powerful kick, he sent a nearby chair spiraling toward the figure, taking advantage of the chaos to keep them at bay. The chair collided with the shadowy shape, buying a crucial moment as David dove to the console, urgency boiling inside him. "Is the diversion ready?" "Yes," Mia called out, determination flooding her voice. "Just give me a moment more." The figure stumbled but recovered quickly, fury flashing in their eyes, the intent to strike hardening its form. David could feel the heat of fear coursing through him, but he couldn't falter now, not after Lisa's song had stirred something deep inside him, something fierce and unyielding. "Mark! Shield her!" David barked, nodding urgently. Mark instinctively moved to cover Mia, desperation etched across his face. The figure lunged again, razor-sharp focus fixed on David. But David stood firm, every instinct firing as he dodged just in time, backing toward Mia and Mark. He was their protector now, the once cold CEO wrapped in a layer of solidarity forged from fear and defiance. "Mia! Now!" he shouted, heart racing as she pressed the final key. As the monitor lit up, David felt exhilaration wash over him. "I've set up a fake signal. They think they're getting through, but they're walking straight into a trap." "Misdirection?" Mark breathed, his face lighting up with hope. "Yes. Head out," David ordered, his pulse thrumming against his temples. "Get to the stairs, I'll hold them off." "No way." Mark shot back. "We fight together." Suddenly, the door slammed open with a deafening bang, revealing a mass of figures pouring into the room, shadows illuminated only by the flickering emergency lights. David could hardly catch his breath. The battle had become a storm, and they were caught in the center. "Go!" David urged, panic sparking in his chest. "Now! Mia!" Mark grabbed her hand, pulling her back toward the exit, eyes wide with resolve. David stormed forward, adrenaline surging through him like flames. He pushed against the horde, fists swinging he would block their path. They had to escape. But as he engaged them, he felt a reckless wave wash over him. In one desperate moment, he took a hit, a punch landing squarely across his jaw, sending a jolt of pain shooting through him. Staggering backward, David fought to retain his footing, rage igniting anew. "Keep going!" he shouted, forcing himself to focus, his gaze firmly set on Mia and Mark. "Don't look back." He could see them struggling against their foes but knew they had to make it. Would this fight cost him everything? He couldn't let that happen. Rage and fear warred inside him, igniting a primal instinct to protect. Finally, Mark shot one last look back at David. "Keep them off, we'll find our way." With that, they bolted down the hallway as shadows chased behind, leaving David vying against sheer numbers. The seconds slipped away like sand, and David felt the weight of the moment, as reality blurred into a haze of conflict. "Remember this moment," he shouted through the fray, voice amplified by bravery. "Running away won't define us anymore." In a whirlwind of chaos, they fled. He was their defense, relentless, fierce, and ready to fight fire with fire. Each untamed moment was an echo of vulnerability and promise to feel again, to trust again. This moment had to be the turning point. As they turned the corner, David ducked under another flurry of chaos. He could see the stairwell ahead, where they could finally find light amidst the dark. But as he pressed closer to the exit, a familiar weight settled in his chest. He had fought through shadows before, but this time he was no longer that cold CEO. The spark of humanity flickered strongly within him. With one last gaze toward the door, the knowledge that trust had been rebuilt flickered in his veins. They would take each step forward together. And as he felt the shadows closing in again, he clenched his jaw with fierce determination. No longer shackled by icy ambition, he would carve a new path where dreams and fears danced together, a heartbeat away from survival. When would his next chance to feel again come? Today. Tomorrow. As long as there was breath in his lungs. And they would come out fighting, together. So he charged forward, ready to join Mia and Mark, ready to ignite a new dawn, a fight sparked by passion, trust, and a melody that echoed through the midnight halls. If this wasn't the beginning of his heart and life awakening anew, then nothing would be. Now was the time. This was the moment, and it was time to take back what was rightfully his. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on these incredible journeys. This is the moment to show your support, folks. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And let us hear from you in the comments. What did you think of this intense conclusion? Flood it with your thoughts and theories. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Each action matters, and true fans unite.